Tonight's Moneyline focus, Napster under siege. The website, which allows users to share digital music files, has suffered a major defeat in its battle with the record industry. A California judge has made 2 preliminary rulings against Napster, which the industry says allows people to swap songs illegally. The rulings come not long after another internet music company, MP3.com, faced its own legal challenge. Fred Katayama goes inside the fight that could decide the future of music on the internet, one that's pit some bands against their fans.
Metallica, a definitive heavy metal band of the 80s and still rocking, is challenging the counterculture of the new century, the internet. The group that recorded And Justice for All is seeking justice for fellow artists. It sued Napster, what some people consider the Robin Hood of the internet. The website allows users to locate and copy music from each other. Critics say much of that music is pirated. Last month, Metallica found 6 versions of its new song on Napster.
The song wasn't even done yet, and that was sort of like, that was the straw, as they say, but we felt that that was crossing the line.
In a separate suit brought by the recording industry, a federal judge has issued a preliminary ruling against Napster, rejecting the company's claim that it was a mere conduit for songs on the internet and not liable for what its users do.
We think it's an important precedent that has been set that will allow us and help us enforce in any future such file sharing services that may evolve out there.
No representative from Napster would appear on camera, but in a statement, the company says it will base its defense on a Supreme Court decision that ruled VCR makers do not violate the law when used at home. The recording industry has been gaining ground in its legal battles. Last month, the internet music company MP3.com was found to have violated copyright law with its online music database. But experts say the recording industry could lose the war.
Napster is going to be a very simple story on the legal level, namely that the owners of intellectual property will win against organizations like Napster that create a technology for the illegal sharing of intellectual property. But on the enforcement level, there is no answer. There is very little way that it can use legal remedies against a diffuse community of online users where generally there is no large corporate defendant at the center of the process.
As for Metallica, Napster says it will comply with the group's demand by blocking users found to be pirating the band's music from its site.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Downloading music has become a rage. A Forrester Research survey found more than 1/3 of computer users download free music at least once a month. But legal experts say the implications of these cases go far beyond music. They can affect other intellectual properties that can be digitally distributed, such as books and movies. Willow and Stewart?
So they'll fight the legal battles, but the enforcement battles seem impossible to win?
That's the one that's going to be very difficult to
And
fight.
across all media, not just music.
Right. Books, music, movies.
But that's not saying you can't do anything about it.
No, you've got to try, but the problem is someone will always come back and try to do an end around if you don't enforce it.
Some would say the cause of shift in music sales was due to the infringement of copyrights. Many record companies felt the hit of low record sales since the 1960s. With the rise of reel-to-reel, cassette tapes, and CDRs, the record companies slowly found a way to sabotage the bootlegging industry with the formula such as streaming. This gave total control over data from the listeners and power over music that could not be duplicated without the permission of the label. An artist would not be able to release music to the public without the label say so. Perhaps this was the downfall of the music industry due to low record sales from bootlegging, or was it greed? In the 19th century, the first Berne Convention took place. It consisted of 10 European countries that came together with the intention of protection from original works. These countries decided to write out a treaty that would protect authors, musicians, painters, and poets as a means to control who could use their works and on what terms. The U.S. didn't agree on these terms and did not sign off on the treaty, which resulted in numerous piracy reprints. When other countries got wind that the U.S. did not participate, they found a loophole to do less work and use copyright authorship against them. Poets such as William Shakespeare were one of the first to feel the hit of bootlegging when one of his works were copied without permission. An individual took one of his works and duplicated it via transcript. Being that the U.S. did not participate in the Berne Convention, this allowed Shakespeare's works to be copied. This also grew his popularity to those who were unable to attend his events. In 1946, Annie Get Your Gun was published as a novel/Broadway play written by Dorothy Fields and Herbert Fields. Judy Garland, who was making a name for herself as an actress, performed as Annie Oakley, which at the time was not considered bootlegging, but the screenwriter did not have permission. Judy was then replaced by Betty Hutton, and the film was released unauthorized by MGM Studios. This resulted in a raid presented by the RIAA on the terms of unauthorized releases of production. They had suspected that the original performers did not receive royalties, and this resulted in ABC and Columbia Records being sued.
That's my song.
No, Don, that's Beach Boys.
In 1966, popular rock artist at the time Bob Dylan, one of the few artists that had their work stolen, such as others like Muddy Waters and Chuck Berry. After a severe motorcycle accident in 1966, Bob Dylan took a break from the public eye. During this time, his works was highly in demand, which resulted in the official pioneering of bootlegging. Local radio stations managed to get their hands on some of Bob Dylan's unreleased music that was recorded on reel-to-reel tapes. They managed to convince pressing plants to print up 2,000 copies by paying in cash and not using real names or addresses to avoid being noticed by the record companies. This resulted in overseas artists getting their hands on unreleased music that created the use of cover works. Meaning, if the song did not go through the copyright process, the artist had no way of penalizing for unauthorized works. During the 1970s, cultures like reggae began to emerge and would often emulate American music with their own sound. Rock and roll began to become more popular, such as covering works. Artists such as Little Richard and others began to feel exploited by white artists, being that the white artists were gaining more popularity and money from their works. As time went on, the public wanted to hear more of the original version than the cover version. This resulted in a decline of cover music, which enabled black artists to now be compensated through writership. During the 70s, many popular artists would have works created, locked in vaults that weren't as popular as their major hits. These throwaway songs were often sold to private companies on the side and benefit from for a fee. Many artists such as the Beatles and Elvis Presley didn't mind their works being stolen because this meant more popularity and more money. During the 1980s, cassettes and videotapes began to take the world by storm. Although vinyl still existed, the inventions of analog began to make it easier for listeners to purchase music and film. In 1986, Prince had recorded an unreleased album which was titled The Black Album. No, not Jay-Z, but Prince. Initially, the album was to be released in December of 1987, but Prince had decided to have the album destroyed a few days before the release date, asking that 500,000 copies of the album be destroyed. Although a few albums were already shipped, this created a lane for the project to be bootlegged. The process of dubbing cassette tapes along with videotapes were much easier than finding a vinyl shop and paying someone under the table. A person could simply purchase a stack of blank cassette tapes or VHS tapes and cover the recording tab with either Scotch tape or recording liners. This took the world by storm and allowed listeners to share a previously purchased cassette to be duplicated, which intentionally increased popularity but hurt record sales as well. As the music industry tried their hardest to combat cassette and video dubbing, they had to come up with a clever way to increase album sales. Many people were unaware at this time, but companies like TDK and Maxell were manufactured in Japan, a place that was no stranger to pirating American products. And then the compact disc was born.
And what you've just been listening to is the ultimate in recorded sound. It will make all conventional disc and cassette systems obsolete. It's dustproof, scratchproof, digitally recorded, read by a laser, and it's called the compact disc. And that's it. The biggest revolution in the recording industry since the invention of the long-playing gramophone record, but this is no ordinary disc, just 12 centimeters in diameter. The music is recorded onto it digitally, and there's no needle being dragged through a groove. That information is being read by a laser light. And this is the tiny laser that does all the work. A small low-power semiconductor which emits invisible infrared light and plays the record from inside out. Magnified 12,000 times, this is what the surface of the compact disc looks like. You can see the thousands of tiny pits and grooves which the laser has cut into a thin plastic sheet. When it's monitored or read off by another laser in the playback machine, the lengths of the grooves and the distances between them give varying light patterns, which are then picked up by a tiny diode. And unlike a conventional gramophone disc, this is totally proof against fingerprints and dust because the information is stored underneath a plastic film. It doesn't really matter how much I manhandle that particular disc, it will still continue to give very good audio quality. This is a one-sided disc. On the other side is simply the label of the record, and the record player which plays it is also surprisingly small and compact. That information is read by a laser from the underside. You simply place the disc in there like a conventional record player, and off you go.
As the sales of CD players began to increase due to its convenience and compatibility, many artists began to thrive as well as record sales. In 1993, Sony Music Entertainment had issued a trademark law through the Copyrights Protection Agency. They got wind that places like Australia and Germany were bootlegging their works via CD, but avoided penalty by placing the words unauthorized on the cover. Many other countries caught wind of this and used the same technique by either placing unauthorized or for promotional use only. Although some recordings were owned by record companies, putting these labels on the front and not copying the same cover art avoided penalties. Remember, with the US not involving themselves in the Berne Convention, all rights were reserved. This allowed music to be copyrighted in countries that were lax with the laws. As CDRs began to take over, the piracy of music began to hit a lot of mom and pop stores, along with corner stands. A CD that was being sold in FYE, Tower Records, and Sam Goody for $19.99 can now be purchased for $5. So instead of buying one of your favorite albums, you could buy 4 for the same price.
seem to me that the industry is in an odd, dangerous place, because I think they have that connection again with Napster. I think kids are out there thinking, hey, you know, for once we're not getting screwed, we're kind of getting let in, and this is cool. You know, I talk to kids, they can't believe it. You know, my son's young friends, that they could actually, and now, you know, I thought that Lars guy was taking a big, dangerous step. Now, you got to admire him for following his heart, but it's a pretty dangerous step to disconnect from those kids.
I think that the thing about music is that music should be available to anybody that wants to hear it. I think that there should be no such thing as a price tag on music. Okay, maybe there's a price tag on the package that you buy. You know, you pay $13 for a CD, you get the artwork, you get the jewel box, you get the friggin' sticker, you get the whole nine, whatever. But I don't want to turn on my radio and have to put a nickel in it to hear Metallica. Like, I don't want to have to pay to hear music. Like, I mean, and you know what? I understand where some people come from when they say Napster is taking money away from me. Napster is hurting my lifestyle, or Napster is, I don't have food in my refrigerator because Napster's got my song all over the internet. No one will buy my demo tape. But you know what? When it's someone that sold 50 million records and they got $50 million dollars and they're bitching about pennies, f you, man. You know, and I mean, I'm fortunate. Like, I am lucky enough, I am fortunate enough to have been in a band or two that actually make a living, you know? So, thank you very much.
Now listen, I can tell you, I don't see you drumming as much now, but I can tell you they still have the drum chops, because every time you make a salient point.
The first question I'd like to know about you guys is, you're in the Limp Bizkit video Break Stuff. Why did you guys choose to do that? Because there used to be like a struggle between rockers and rappers. Rockers used to hate like rappers.
I actually don't know why I decided to do it, to tell you the truth. I didn't even know whose video I was going to be in. I just pulled out and they said, yo, say this to the camera, and I did it.
I got the job shit for you.
You really regret it, actually?
I really regret it.
You're joking. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's serious.
Really? Why then?
Look at my face.
Why though?
I'm serious.
Is it because it's rock, or you just don't like the result?
No, I just don't like the things that Fred Durst has been standing for lately.
About Napster, you mean?
Definitely about Napster.
What's going on with that? What's the situation like now?
The situation with Napster is basically this. They're enabling people to get our music free. The music we go in the studio and work hard on for long periods of time. A lot of money is spent on producing those records. And they're enabling people to get the music free. And I don't think it's right. They're taking food out of my kids' mouth, you know what I'm saying? And Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit is, he's being sponsored by Napster to put on a free concert that he got paid for. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's right that he's doing that. And they're giving his music away free also.
Yeah, it's like everybody, you know, everybody here, give our music away for free. We'll sit in the studio and we'll do this, and we'll spend hours and days on making this music. You know what I'm saying? And here you go, here, it's for free. Meanwhile, me and Dre will go work at a burger place and flip burgers, you know what I'm saying, and do the music and basically whore ourselves for people, you know what I'm saying? Like, here, we're your whores, take our music for free, you know what I'm saying?
So you feel like it's disrespectful to the artist?
Disrespectful, it's straight up disrespectful. Like, it's bullshit, all that Napster is bullshit. And anybody who stands for it is, you know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody getting my music for free, you know what I'm saying? The week that my album came out, I missed at least 30,000 sales by, you know what I'm saying, by people downloading my shit on the internet or whatever, you know, so.
And their argument is that people should be getting music free and what have you, but I don't think so, because this is our job, you know. The people that work at Napster is not going to go work for free, you know what I'm saying? Straight up, I mean, it's our jobs, this is how we feed our families, and we employ a lot of people. And they're basically taking jobs away if this succeeds, which I don't think it will.
So what's going to happen now, do you think? What are you guys going to do to get this straight?
It's like, what is the point in making music? What are we making music for anymore? If everybody is just going to get the music for free, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, when I was growing up, I supported, I supported, well, I listen to hip hop mostly, but I supported hip hop to the fullest, you know what I'm saying? Buying every single tape, every CD that I could, you know what I'm saying, that I could afford. You know, we understand that people have 9-to-5 jobs and they work, you know what I'm saying? They might work and do whatever they do as working class citizens, you know what I'm saying? But still, I've been there too. I've been in that position too, you know what I'm saying? And I know what it's like to spend $15, $16, $20 on a CD or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But if you really love that artist and you really want to support that artist, you're gonna go out and buy that artist's record, do you know what I'm saying? If you're gonna get it for free, then what's the point of, you know, people making music anymore? If the artist ain't gonna be taken care of, if the artist, you know what I'm saying, is just prostituting himself for free, you know what I'm saying?
With the rise of the internet, audio files became the go-to for all sources of unreleased music. The birth of MP3s and WAV files gave listeners a way to take advantage of music that wouldn't be available to them or in other regions. Programs like Real Player and Windows Media Player allowed these files to be available in any country. With the help of Napster, bootlegging was now available to anyone who could get their hands on a computer. The P2P shared meant that one owner of an album can upload it to be shared with another individual on the other side of the planet. With the rise in sales of CDRs, this followed the same process of cassette dubbing and eventually hurt the sales of most popular artists. This introduced the lane of 360 deals.
4 things, I guess. One is, just from a purely observational point of view, there have been a lot of people in the music business over the last 5 or 6 years who have been trying to go for this kind of thing. I know at Warner, Russ Sider and I were talking about that kind of thing with several other people at the company, and Jeff Quatinitz has been trying to do it with the firm, the management company, for quite a while, and EMI tried to make it happen with their Robbie Williams deal, and so going to the analytic part, it's an understandable response to the fact that while for a long time record sales are what drove, you know, the way that people approach the music business at the higher levels. I mean, obviously at the sort of surviving musician level, it wasn't that important. There are plenty of country artists that haven't sold very many records for years that make an exceedingly good living because they're out on the road and they get fans to come. And Neil Diamond, you know, Neil Diamond hadn't sold a lot of records, you know, in a long time, even with Rick Rubin producing them. But he still gets sold out tours and makes a fortune from them. But for the upside, the part of the record business, that's the part that everybody focuses on, including the people that are looking at these tiny little parts of conglomerates or the record companies. Yeah, they want to see the big dollars, and records aren't a part of that. So you want to look at those other income streams that, by and large, the record labels have done a great deal to create. I mean, it's very hard to become somebody making a lot of money on the road unless you've had some record company put a lot of money into promoting you and building up your brand so you can cash it in. Although there are plenty of acts that, as I say, do fine on the road that have never sold a record, and no one's ever heard of them except for the fans that go see them because they're incessantly out on the road. So I understand why it's happening. Do I think the deals make sense? Honestly, I think we're so early in the process that the deals probably won't make sense, because what's happening now is that everybody wants to be the first to make those deals.
I have one more kind of thing to bring up, and then we're going to ask questions from the audience. One of the big topics of conversation down here the last couple of times I've come down to speak are the so-called 360 deals. And I know both of you guys are, you know, have your opinions on them. And just for those, just to refresh, 360 deals are when the label kind of gets with the artist and wants to tap all revenue streams. As sales kind of go down, the labels want to be rewarded for their efforts by, you know, replacing the money that they're not making on records anymore with, you know, live revenues and merch revenues. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's going to happen on a big scale level?
Well, I'm not a fan of it just because it's not how I grew up. It's not how I'm wired. I think the case could be made that a label puts up the initial investment, which allows the bands to make their records and get out on the road, and has a chance to then build some value for their operation and build their business, and all the other opportunities that then flow from that can somehow be drawn back to that initial investment that the label made. but there's such a history of dysfunction between the accounting between artist and their record label that there's a natural suspicion built into the relationship between artist and label. And if the label were actually doing the work that would help to grow those ancillary businesses, we were able to make a real contribution on ticket sales, touring opportunities, music publishing and licensing opportunities, it would be one thing. And if they were to sort of put their money where their mouth was and invest more upfront to be in those businesses, it would be one thing. I get a certain amount of pressure from the guys above me to try to get these in my deal, and they look at me as somebody that does actively network these opportunities, and I tend to manage my projects as if I were the artist manager, not just the label. So it's in its early stages. Time will tell whether these things actually help to contribute to a fading bottom line or just a panacea in the short term. Every case is different as well, and every manager and every artist is going to have a different point of view, but all the major labels are pretty much insisting on this right now for all new bands, so it's hard to watch.
With the rise of the video share, YouTube became main resource for bootlegging music. Many fans across the world were now able to freely upload music and footage from concerts without the fear of being sued. YouTube and Google believed under the Safe Harbor Act it would not be responsible for uploading content. Once record companies took notice of their works being published on YouTube platforms, they had no choice but to come to a licensing agreement. In 2010, YouTube removed its 15-minute limit for uploads and enabled people to freely upload longer content, meaning whole albums and concerts were now available. Streaming services have combated bootlegging and allow everyone to hear their favorite song via mobile device. While digital streaming platforms make billions of dollars from listeners, the artists are now the ones that have to pay for the consequences. The use of public domain and performing rights can still be violated. Many people aren't aware of the effect of bootlegging or what it may have had on the music industry, but the history itself has affected all, from the highest of selling artists to its lowest. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you made it this far, give it a thumbs up. Peace.